Welcome to Beyond the Riverwalk, the local weekly podcast that brings San Antonio's most remarkable people, places, and events directly to you. All links discussed will be in the show notes, so sit back, relax, and join Kevin and Melissa Barron as they ask the questions that you would. Now, let's get the conversation started.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Riverwalk. Today, we are doing our 25th episode. Can you believe it's been 25 episodes? I think it's pretty exciting. And I've got two friends here with me today. Melissa's not joining me, but I do have some two great friends I believe that you're going to want to know as well. So first of all, let me just jump right into introducing them. I have Brian Moreland and Brandon Moreland, and they're here from JB Knife and Tool. Now, if you don't know about them, you don't know about what they're all about, you're going to find out a little bit. And if you don't think you're into knives, you may want to stay tuned anyway, because you're going to find out some really interesting stuff. So first of all, welcome, Brian. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks for having us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really been appreciated, what he said.
What he said. You got it. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about, I guess, what we're doing. What we're talking about today is the business, but it's also beyond the business, and it's also, I guess, to reaching out to the community and building a community.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about how you guys fit into San Antonio, how you got to San Antonio, how you got into the business that you're in.
Okay. Well, I mean, I started making knives back in 2006. I was doing drafting work for some other local knife makers out in Houston. We were living in Houston at the time. And that turned into hey, I'll trade you some drafting work for you teaching me how to make knives, you know? Yeah. And so when we moved to San Antonio, Brandon had a couple of doctors that he was seeing here. So we were driving from Houston to San Antonio, every 6 weeks, you know? So we just decided to make the move. But when I moved down here and I started working at Southwest Research, one of my partners there, drafting partners there, wanted to learn how to make knives, and we created JB Knife and Tool back in 2013, and it's just kind of grown.
So what's the focus of the business? What do you guys do?
So the focus of our business right now mainly is we try to make custom knives, custom tools that any working man can kind of save up a little bit of money and buy a tool that'll last him a lifetime, his kid's lifetime, you know. And that's kind of how we started out. And now it's turned into so much more than that. We've developed this, along with a couple of other bladesmiths here in San Antonio. We've created a separate entity called Stab HQ, which is
sounds fun, but I have a feeling from our previous conversations that it's also an acronym, right?
Yeah, it's an acronym. So it's the South Texas Association of Bladesmiths, and it's JB Knife and Tool, it's Stonehaven Knife Works, Helm Enterprises, Volnder Forge, which is our buddy Alex, who's an incredible blacksmith, and bladesmith as well. But we've gotten together, and it's just a place for us to teach people about how to work metal in whatever way they want to work metal. So we have, Bare Metal Creations here in town. Chris does like metal sculpture and Damascus making and, all these different things. We've got Alex he does a lot of old school blacksmithing work. And so he teaches like a basic blacksmithing class, but he's also a fantastic bladesmith. And we've got guys that make little pocket knives to guys that make big swords. And so we're trying to kind of spread that knowledge and teach that down here. And there's been a bigger demand for it than we originally thought it was going to be. These guys have classes going like 6 days a week now. So
one of the questions I guess that a lot of folks would have, and I know I had early on when we first met, was you talk about blacksmithing and forging, and you think, at least I think about, or used to think about many, many, many years ago, and you don't think of that in the modern day. So what does that entail nowadays? I mean, if you're a bladesmith, what does that mean?
So to be
what skills do you need to have?
Yeah, so to be a bladesmith, I mean, it really depends on what school of thought you kind of come from. There's two different types of bladesmith. There's stock removal guys, which JB Knife and Tool, we're mainly stock removal company. Okay. And stock removal is where you come up with a pattern, you come up with a design, you cut it out of the steel and you grind it from the blank. So we do a lot of removing stock from the material. The benefit of that is repeatability. I can do more of the same kind of blade over and over again with repeatable.
Once you have a good design, you can duplicate it forever.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Whereas working a bladesmith as a forge, somebody that runs a forge all the time, most of the stuff that they do are one-offs. There are some guys out there with some skill that can repeatedly forge that blade out to the same specs, the same size, the same, over and over again. But it's a very long involved process. So, and that process is you take your raw bar stock, you're heating it up to whatever critical temperature the steel is, and then you're forcing that steel to be whatever shape you want by swinging a hammer, at it until you get it about 90% complete with a hammer. And then depending on if you have a grinder or if you're one of the guys that, like our buddy James, that likes to take a file and then go back and file all the bevels in. Yeah, it can be a really time-consuming process. So, but
okay. So on the blacksmith side, is that the same thing where they're using a forge, but are they creating other things besides knives? So are they doing traditional, what you would think a blacksmith does?
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So the blacksmith, I mean, there's a big call now for architects that want, old school ironwork in a lot of the buildings and stuff that they're doing. Yeah, so it's, you're talking about like wall sconces, handrails, door hinges, door handles, little, ornate fixtures and things like that in the house. But a lot of these guys are also using the blacksmithing skills to make like metal sculptures. And we have a guy out in New York that makes spoons, metal spoons. Wow. And they're really ornate. They're really fancy metal spoons, but that's his bag. Thing. That's what he does, But it can kind of cover a lot of different areas. There's guys that make like technical tools like dividers and things, or there's a guy that we just watched him forge out an entire old school lockbox, an old metal lockbox. Yeah. Key and everything was forged and hand filed down to precision, and it was just beautiful work.
Wow. Yeah, you don't hear a lot about, I guess in traditional media or whatever, you don't hear a lot about people with those kind of skills.
Right.
You hear more nowadays, I think, about the lack of those skills.
Yeah.
And the lack of people with good technical skills, vocational skills in the country. But it sounds like there's not really a lack of it these days in your area, because it sounds like it's a really growing, one, industry, and two, just a business.
Right.
So what's San Antonio like for this kind of industry, this kind of business? It's grown surprisingly well. We have, for us, it seems like a lot, like we have a lot of bladesmiths in this area, and San Antonio is not that big of a place when you start to it's a big city, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a place to have this many bladesmiths in there. And that's kind of why we started the whole Stab HQ thing, is to try to bring all these guys together to where we can help each other out. If you don't know how to do something, there's somebody in the group that knows how to do it, and will show you how to do it. But San Antonio has been great because it is kind of an artsy town with an artsy community, and it's very accepting to all these different classes that we teach, and it kind of it's opened the door for us to be able to teach these classes here and actually fill it full of people that want to learn this type of skill. So how hard is it? So if obviously I've got no skill in this. So are there classes out there that you guys do or that other people do that I just want to be exposed to it to see what it's really like? Is that something you guys do? Or
yeah, absolutely. We get together with like James Helm and Tobin Nieto and Alex and these guys, and they're the main blacksmiths, and we help with like the grinding and the finishing and the polishing part of things. We would be considered a whitesmith. That's the person that does all the polishing and the finish work and things like that. Okay. Yeah. And so we do have classes in here, and we do have people that come in that are just like, we've had people come into the class that have never picked up a hammer before, and so for them to go from start to finish on like just a basic hunting knife, that's a huge accomplishment.
So what's the draw, do you think, to someone like that's never done any kind of, manual creation or, design or whatever? What draws them to this, do you think?
I think it's the there is kind of I don't want to say there's like a manly aspect to it, because there's tons of female blacksmiths out there that are incredibly talented, but there's that need to want to make something or create something with your hands and get out there and get dirty and be by the fire and smash stuff with hammers and things like that.
When it's done, it's there.
Yeah, and then when you've done, you've created that from like raw material to, and when I say raw material, it's the easiest way, for us to get started, or for anybody to get started, is you buy the bar stock and you take it to the forge and you heat it up and you pound it into, but we have guys in the group that they'll show you how to make the steel. So you're getting basically dirt,
wow.
Carbon and, and trying to mix the stuff, and you make a bloom, and then you turn that bloom into an ingot, and then you forge that ingot into a piece of bar steel, and then from there we go on through the process.
That's kind of the hardcore folks there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a fun kind of not only are you learning like a deeper science to it, but there's kind of an artistic flair there to it.
That's one of the things I was always curious about, was because you're talking about something that sounds like, oh, well, this is manual labor, this is just strength and muscle behind it. But when you're building something like that, or when you're doing, you talked about Damascus before. I know a little bit about that. Just from watching TV, documentaries. But what it comes down to is you got to know the science. You've got to know the ingredients and the chemistry in a lot of ways.
Right.
Physics and how this thing is going to respond to these kind of pressures. And that
right.
So how is that played into this? Is that part of your interest in it as well as the design side?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a time frame there for a while where because of this, I wanted to go back to school and be a metallurgist, because I fell in love with the science behind all of this. I mean, knife making can be as simple as you heat the bar up until it's no longer magnetic, and then you quench it in some oil, and voila, you've got a hardened piece of steel. But when you're talking about making a knife or making a tool that somebody is literally going to put their life on the line carrying, it becomes a little more critical at that point, So now I know that, okay, with this type of bar steel, I need to preheat the oven at this rate, to this temperature. Then I've got to put the steel in. It can only stay in at this temperature for this long. Then I have to raise it up. And then you have to know what it does to the grain structure of that steel at those temperatures for that time period. And know that if you leave it in there too long, you're growing the grain structure too long, you're making it brittle in certain spots. So it can go as deep as you want it to go, but it can be as easy as heat it up till you can't stick a magnet to it anymore and then quench it in some oil.
So for some of it, it sounds like, and this goes back to a little bit of what I've seen maybe in the past, some of it goes down to how strong you want it to be. Flexible is maybe a balance, because it can be brittle. Or it can bend, and you may want it to bend.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to figure out, based on the tool design or the knife design, what works best for that design.
For that application. Yeah. And people often forget that, a knife is a tool just like anything else. Just like a chisel's a tool, and a hammer's a tool, and a wrench is a tool. You can build a knife that can do a lot of different things, but it's not going to do any of those things really well. Versus I need a knife to be able to skin an animal. Okay, well, that's a certain type of grind, a certain type of edge geometry, and a certain type of hardness that you want that steel to have. Versus I need a knife that I can use as a pry bar to open up a door and chisel through a concrete wall. And, that's a whole other type of steel and a whole other type of edge geometry. And so when people start talking about, I got this knife, but it was a piece of junk because it broke when I did this. Well, it was probably not designed to do that. You can't take a Skinner and try to use it as a pry bar, so it's not going to work really well.
But that also sounds like, just kind of thinking ahead a little bit, it also sounds like a good reason to have a large collection.
Exactly.
You want something that does everything, right?
Right.
So that may be part of the draw to a lot of collectors. Well, I guess part of what we love talking about is just the history. So you've talked a little bit about San Antonio. How do these designs change? I mean, are you doing things that, if I was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, are there still designs out there that you guys are using? Are you creating new things?
It's really, and you can talk to any knife maker about this, it's really hard to try to come up with a new design when you're building man's oldest tool,
that's a good point. Yeah.
There's always going to be, and that causes a lot of drama. Oh, this guy's doing something similar to my design and blah, blah, blah. But if you look back 200 years ago, guess what? That guy was doing it first,
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a little bit of overlap and things like that. But that being said, especially like in what we call like the bushcraft community, the guys that are making knives for, camping and bushcraft and woodcraft and all this kind of stuff, their traditional designs work. So a lot of the knife makers, we reproduce those traditional designs for a reason. If it's not broke, don't fix it. They've
evolved over decades and
and
years.
So we're taking designs from like the the fur trade era and things like that, Green River area, that these knives were designed specifically for certain purposes. And so guys that are still out trapping and skinning and, doing woodcraft and things like that, they're going to want those same designs because those designs have been proven over hundreds of years to work.
So what are you guys doing? What do you focus on? Are you in a little bit of all of that, or do you have something that you're known for?
Yeah, we started off in a little bit of all of that, but we've kind of narrowed our focus down to what we call like a small EDC or everyday carry type of blade to the defensive side of blades. And we've kind of been pushed in that direction because some police and military and EMS, they've started to pick up our knives, and they've kind of directed us as, hey guys, I need tools that do this. And so we started making that for them, and that's what's been paying the bills.
So it's like, I like this one, but if you could do this to it,
if you could do this, it would be exactly what we need. Great, then that's what we're gonna make is exactly what you need.
So are these customized now, or are they just a different production knife or production tool that you just have now created and sell more broadly?
Yeah, so we have a few designs that are very they're very specific to self-defense. That's, and they're mainly self-defense driven for a lot of our small blades, and we still have some utilitarian blades and stuff as well, but they're all made in-house. All the grinds are ground by hand. We put all the bevels in by hand. The handles, we do use a water jet to cut the blanks out, and we use a CNC machine to cut the handles out. But all the handles
involved,
and that's because we'll get batches of orders from like police departments or different things where it's, I need 50 of these. Well, great. I don't want to stand in front of a bandsaw for 2 weeks cutting out handle material, right? So we got a CNC machine that comes and cuts them out, but they're glued and pinned on by hand. They're shaped by hand. Everything's sharpened by hand. So there's still a handmade level there, but we are bringing in some technology to just to try to help us keep up with demand.
Just to clarify, I guess then, so you have some designs that maybe they're derived from a custom need,
right?
But they're not really a custom knife, because then once you've developed it, you can sell it.
Exactly.
Otherwise.
Yeah,
it's not a one-off kind of piece.
Right.
Okay.
And we used to do a lot of one-offs, and we enjoyed that. But now, since we have a few different models that we're constantly putting out, it's harder to take time away from those to do any more one-offs. Now, when we have like a government agency or a police department or somebody that calls us and says, "Hey, I need a tool to do this," well, then we stop and do that, because those guys, they need it, and they need it now.
So what's the typical customer like that you have? I mean, how has that changed? Were they individuals before, and now they're more organizational customers?
Yeah, we have a pretty good mix.
Okay.
We have a pretty good mix. I mean, we have some government projects in the works now that we can't go into a whole lot. We can't go into a whole lot of that, but we have some government projects kind of in the mix now, and we have but mostly it's individuals, and a lot of times it's individuals that are police officers, or they are EMS, and they're trying to buy some one-off stuff that they can then take back to their department and say, "Hey guys, we need this."
I see.
So
that's pretty neat. Yeah. So again, everything changes over time, especially a business. So where is it going in the future? And what? Well, let me back up before we go to the future. What's going on now? Because I've been following you guys for a while. You've got a Facebook group for collectors and just others that are interested in what you do. And I'll ask you to tell us how we find all that stuff in a bit. But what are you doing now? Because you just came back from Atlanta and the big, I guess it's called the Blade Show.
Blade Show, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. And because I haven't really talked to Brandon much, we need to get Brandon involved here, because he was there and he was a big part of that. So what's that all about?
So right now, Brandon is a huge part of the show. Brandon, for everybody out there, Brandon's my son, and he's on the spectrum, but he wanted to come in and start working in the shop. And which just tickled me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Tickled me pink when your son comes and says, "Hey, I want to work in the shop," So we started him off sweeping floors, and then it moved to, he wanted to help me make the sheaths for the knives, and then it was, I can do the sandblast cabinet, and he's gone and profiled things on the grinder, and I mean, he'll tackle anything we give him, and he does it with such enthusiasm, that it's just great to see. He's very quiet in the shop 90% of the time, and until you say, "Hey buddy, I've got some work for you to do," and he's like, "Great," and he'll pack up his drawings and he'll stand over at the sandblast cabinet for like 4 hours and make sure everything's done perfect.
Just crank it out.
And when he's done, he's like, "Okay, break time," and then he comes back and sits, and he does a wonderful job. you want to tell them what's your favorite part in the shop, buddy?
Well, my favorite part? I have no favorite parts. Although the sandblasting's totally cool. And, of course, making the sheaths maybe so easily. And yes, Brian and I did work together folding up the sheaths for the knives, with the heating press.
Yep. Yeah, he helped me get all the sheaths done for Blade Show.
Wow.
We took 65 knives to Blade Show, but we had a big order before that. So we only had like a week and a half to try to get 65 knives done for the show, which
From no
was
stock to complete.
Exactly.
Finished.
Yeah, which was a beast. And we wouldn't have got it done without Brandon in the shop. I mean,
that's cool.
He sandblasted everything. He helped me profile stuff, got all the material ready to make the sheaths. I mean, he was a beast in the shop.
How long is Brandon? Oh yeah, how long have you been working in the shop?
Well, I've been working, let me think. Well, I've been working at the shop for almost like a year. I mean, I started to work with him at the old shop, the itty-bitty place at downtown San Antonio. But now Brian and I moved to the bigger shop right by a railroad.
Okay.
Where the trains go by.
I forgot to ask, because y'all have moved out of the space you originally started and you've grown so much.
Yeah. We were in a little place off of South Presa. That's where Stab HQ is set up now, and the Reforge guys and stuff are set up in that space because it's a wonderful space to teach classes out of. But we've picked up some contracts. We've picked up a bunch of extra work. We've had to add a couple of different machines and some different things in there, and we just needed more space. So we found a space that was big and it had air conditioning, and it happened to be right next. When I say next to a railroad track, like I could throw a rock out the window and hit the train as it goes by. Like it's right next to the building. So, which Brandon loves it because he loves trains. So,
that's perfect.
Yeah, he gets a kick out of it.
Oh,
I know, man. I love trains, but heck, I really, 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 really love animals. So don't even bother.
Okay.
Everybody's got interest, and if you can combine a few, that's even better, right?
That's even better.
So you love drawing. Have you gotten involved in any of the designs or in working to create the designs for the I guess for the CNC or anything else that you're doing electronically?
Well, I have no idea. Sometimes I sketch digitally, and other times I sketch the old-fashioned way using a pencil and paper.
Okay.
Yeah, we've actually gotten a few. Brandon's got a huge fan base of our followers that just love his videos. So we've picked up some orders because they like his videos, and we've had several emails lately that are, hey, can you get Brandon to do as much work on this knife as possible for me? And so we're going to actually make his own little maker's mark, and it's his little paw print that he puts on all of his drawings. And so underneath our JB logo, it's going to have a paw print on every blade that Brandon does a bunch of work on.
Those should go for a premium, I would think.
Yeah, I know. And it'll go straight to him.
That's right. That's awesome. So we were talking about Blade Show. So that, I think it seems like that's when it kind of blew up, at least online.
Yeah.
With the videos and everything. So tell a little bit more about Blade Show and then how Brandon, how did you get involved in that? Because you were really keeping us all up to date here back home in San Antonio.
That's right. Yeah, he wanted to, do you want to tell everybody about your updates?
My updates. I'm not sure how my updates are. Well, what updates are you talking about?
You remember when we were going to Blade Show and coming back from Blade Show, how you made the videos to keep everybody up to date on what we were doing?
Yes, I was pretty good at the videos, but I had a little blooper sometimes messing up my voice.
Yep, so Blade Show is it's the biggest knife show of the year. I think it's the biggest knife show in the world. We have people from all over the world that come down to it. There's over 1,000 vendors there, and there's just an amazing amount of people that come through the doors on there. It's loud, it's hectic, it's super busy. So trying to take somebody on the spectrum to a place like that was just absolutely nerve-wracking for me, but he was dead set on coming, and we loved having him there. And he handled it great. He was a great help. He would talk to people in the aisle and bring them to the table, and he was.
What I remember, the first video I remember seeing, and at least on the trip, was in the car.
Yeah,
kind of telling we're heading out, kind of thing. And then when you got there, the updates every day about what was going on. and then making all the contacts, because you got a ton of swag from people. I mean, I think Brandon's got to be the best marketing you guys have ever had.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, what was that experience like? I mean, how did you, make all these new friends, and what has that led to now? Because it's been very recent, right? But it's still amazing what's still happening.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We posted the video. What happened one day is we were in the shop and I asked Brandon, "Yeah, you want to help me make a video?" And he's like, "Great, let's make a commercial." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "I'm going to need this knife and this ice pick and whatever this is." And it was this like S-shaped, it's called a Sakatripus. It's a knife on our page. And he's like, "Whatever this is." And so he picks it up and then he just started, I turned the camera on and he was like a whole other person, and he just started flowing with this stuff, and it was hilarious. It was great. And people loved it. And so, like I said, he's quiet 90% of the time in the shop until you turn the camera on, and then he's
just planning. He's ready for when the lights go on.
Exactly. So what's happened is he's got people came to the show and came to our booth just to say hi to Brandon. They wanted to come and visit, and so many people brought him little gadgets and little things to make him feel welcome at the show. And it was just heartwarming. I mean, and when the law enforcement and military community found out about it, they were bringing him patches and all this, and he loves the police patches and stuff. How many patches do you have now, buddy?
I have no idea. There's so many I couldn't even count them.
But they're awesome, huh?
I know, right? I also got a keychain from Smokey the Bear or something.
That's really? Yeah, some guys at the U.S. Forestry Department gave him a bunch of Smokey the Bear stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember growing up with Smokey the Bear. I mean, that was like iconic. That's pretty cool that they're still doing that. Oh, wow. So what parts, I guess, did you enjoy the meeting the folks at the Blade Show in terms of the people you're bringing to the booth, or what was your favorite part of the show?
No favorite parts.
No favorite parts?
No favorite parts.
Just all of it. The whole thing.
Well, pretty much.
Pretty much. That's cool. That's cool.
Did you have fun, buddy?
Oh, heck yeah.
So, ready to go again? I mean, you got a plan for next year?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, on my last day, I drew a little sketch of a locomotive named Chugs from the Easter Bunny's Comedy Downtown from 1977 with the words "think, can, do" from a friend of his. He needs a sketch for his shop. So I give him the sketch, and he paid me $20.
Wow.
Yeah, our friend Eric Kramer is another knife maker out of Southern California. Okay. And he was sitting next to us at Blade Show, and when it gets loud, Brandon puts his headphones in and he draws pictures. And so Eric asked him how much for some custom artwork for my shop, and Brandon's like $20. And he's got
a plan. He's sitting there smiling. He's got a plan. He knows.
Yeah, it's my final offer.
And so
this is my first and final offer.
That's right.
That's a negotiator right there.
So Eric says, "Done. Let's do it." And so Brandon made that drawing for him, and Eric's framing it and putting it in his shop.
That's really cool. So what is the future? What are you guys working on now, and where are you going? Where do you think you're going in the future? Because things change.
Things change, yeah, for sure. Well, the plan right now is we're kind of gearing up. We're getting some more CNC machines and some different things in there to try to keep up with demand. I'd like to be able to pump out more product as far as having things available on the website, so that, because there's a lot of people that they don't want to place a custom order that's going to take 12 to 16 weeks to get finished. They want to buy it now. So we're trying to get more content on the site, but I'm trying to get the machine set up to where Brandon can go over there, put a piece of material down, hit a button, and have it all set up to where he can come and get things cutting. So I'm going back to school for psychology, and the more I turn this company into a production type of company, the more I want to bring Brandon and some of his friends that are, high functioning on spectrum disorder, and bring them in so that they can learn a skill that they can take anywhere, but also so that they can learn the social aspect of it, because the social aspect of it was originally why I wanted him to come work in the shop.
Yeah,
we have so many different people that come through our shop every week. We've got hot rod guys that come through. We get, there's a lot of military and police guys that come in, professors and doctors and all this other. And so we pick up social cues and different things, and we go in and we can shake hands and we can kind of tailor fit how we're going to communicate with this person based on who they are, where they're from, and all this. And it's a little harder for somebody on the spectrum to kind of pick up that. So we're using the shop to be able to teach him those social skills. And just in the short time that he's been in the shop, like his social skills have gone through the roof there. So I'd like to turn our shop into a place that not only can they come in, can somebody on the spectrum come in and learn like a job skill that they can sit and do.
Yeah, practical
skill that they could come in and also pick up some social skills there as well.
Yeah, you are. You're interacting with anybody and everybody.
Yeah, there's tons of different
because everybody has, tons of folks have different interests in this, from the learning how to make it to the collections to the, like just from a professional standpoint, you talked about with the folks on the police departments and the governmental agencies. I mean, you're getting customers, I'm sure, and interest from all over the place.
Right.
So one of the things I was doing while we were talking was pulling up the website. So it's jbknifeandtool.com is the website, and you're on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Pinterest and Instagram and
right.
Google Plus, if that's still around. I think that's still around. I'm not sure, but yeah, you guys are everywhere. But where do we find more information on the website? What do you have out there? I know you've got stock that people can actually order, but is there any information out there on the organization and what you're doing and how you got started? Do people want to research a little more?
There's an About Us page on the website. We're actually about to go through and update all that to kind of include Brandon and what he does as well. And I mean, we answer emails and questions all the time as well. So you can email us through the website or Instagram, or Facebook, and any of those, we answer those daily. So
yeah, no, it just as collector in other areas and here and other people like to know, like, okay, who made this and how and where did it come from and what's it look like and because people are just into details when they're collectors, I guess. So that's great that's out there. Oh, so what's next? Are you guys working on, I guess, just different designs? Are you looking at going to different shows like Blade Show, apart from gearing up production and doing everything? It sounds like that's enough, but I mean, it seems like there's more on the horizon because I've seen how fast you guys have grown.
There's some more on the horizon. We have some guys coming into town in July, so we're going to start hosting some classes at our shop because we've got the space, and we know quite a few folks that have some interesting skills to teach. So Ed from Ed's Manifesto is going to be coming down to our, and I think I talked to you before about Ed.
You mentioned that.
So he's going to come down and teach a class. It'll be an organic medium class, but he also teaches like a counter custody course and all these different things. So we're going to be hosting him in the shop, hopefully a couple times a year. And Doc is another guy that has austere medical management, and he's going to be coming down and doing like some ditch medicine classes and how to treat different wounds and different things like that. So we're going to be hosting some good folks in the class soon. We're gearing up. We're trying to figure out. We want to add a couple more shows a year to kind of what we've been doing right now. Usually we just have time to do Blade Show because Blade Show really takes it out of us.
You're going to need the capacity to be able to do that.
Yeah. So there's the USN show in Vegas, and Blade Show West is in Oregon. So we're looking at doing both of those.
That's gotta be cool.
Hopefully, we'll probably go to the USN show this year to kind of check it out and meet some folks and kind of mingle, and then shoot for next year doing Blade Show, the USN show, and Blade Show West. So it's going to be busy. It's going to be a busy year next year, buddy.
Oh, heck yeah, it is.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to do
So
it.
I guess the one thing that we haven't talked about, and I need to, is where do we find the videos? So if people want to follow up, connect with Brandon online, how do they do that?
So the videos get posted onto our Instagram page, and so it's just JB Knife on Instagram. They also get tagged over on our Facebook page, our JB Knife and Tool Facebook page. Today we were discussing getting Brandon his own Instagram page. So hopefully we'll have that up soon, and he'll be doing more videos and things on there as well.
On YouTube. Yeah,
for sure.
To YouTube.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we watch so much YouTube because, cable.
Yeah, I know.
But you can find anything on YouTube.
Right.
So, we'll be looking for you. That's for sure.
Oh, thanks, sir.
Definitely. Well, thank y'all for being here
Thanks
today.
for having us.
Telling us a little bit about JB Knife and Tool, about Brandon and how he's gotten involved. And the goal, I think, not only just to grow the business and all that stuff, but to bring people in that are on the spectrum to help them learn these skills. I think that's amazing. And I think that's definitely a huge mission, kind of a life calling, I would say.
Yeah,
if you can
for
make
sure.
that work.
Yeah, that's the plan. So
good deal. And thank you for joining us today. This has been a whole lot of fun talking to Brian and talking to Brandon. And just to remind you, you can find all of their information. You can find all the products that JB Knife and Tool produce at JB Knife on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also find them at jbknifeandtool.com on the web. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Melissa and myself for joining us for this last 25 episodes of Beyond the Riverwalk. It's been a whole lot of fun. We've met some amazing people, and we look forward to doing many, many more episodes in the future. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them to us on social, or you can just email us at podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. So until next time, we'll see you around the Alamo City.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Riverwalk. Send your comments, questions, and suggestions to podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. As always, subscriptions to our show are free and available wherever you find podcasts, as well as on our website. Until next week, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more conversations about our community.